Welcome to the Church Solutions Podcast, brought to you by JSL Solutions. The Church Solutions Podcast is designed to help equip you and your church in the use of technology and other tools and services. And now, here are your hosts, Steve Lacy and Phil Thompson.
Greetings and welcome to Church Solutions, the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
And we are here, as we are once a week, to do a podcast. This is episode number 4, and this podcast that we do on a weekly basis is all about helping churches mainly use technology, although we don't limit ourselves to giving advice just in the technical realm, right?
That's for sure. We're experienced in all aspects of church.
That's right. We'll tell you anything because we are old. Well, we're not that old, but we've been around for a while. I mean, and that's okay. It's a good legacy to feel like you've got some experience.
We've done it all.
That's right. So Steve, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about streaming.
Streaming video.
Right.
And this is a conversation that has kind of sparked because we ran across an article a few months ago, and my mouse is not cooperating here. Oh, there it is. And the article was about from a young man who is in the ministry of kind of helping churches use technology, kind of like we are, and helping them get improve what they do. He doesn't really talk much about streaming video, but he talks a lot about your presentations and those kind of things. And the article, which I won't mention his name, but he's really a good guy. I want to emphasize that he's a young man, fresh out of Bible college, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's got a lot of good stuff. But his article was entitled "Stop! Don't Record Your Church Services," and the whole idea behind it was because it's too expensive and you can't do it because what did he say the minimum price was?
It was said $10,000 to $20,000 to stream your services.
So he said that if you're going to want to stream your services live over the internet, it's going to cost you a minimum of $10,000 to $20,000. Okay, so
another key point was it's only for the big churches.
Okay, yeah, that was another thing, is that if you don't have a big church, and I think part of what he was getting at was if your church, the average church in America, I'm trying to look and find some stats here that he said here, because he's very good.
Definitely right on.
95% of churches in the United States and Canada consist of 350 people or less. And the average American congregation consists of 75 people, which we've known that for years.
Right.
50% of all American churches consist of 75 people or less. And then there are only 35 churches consisting of 10,000 people or more in the United States of America, which I did not know that. But
no, I didn't know that either. But it doesn't surprise me. 10,000 is a really big number. So
that is a big number.
Yeah. Those are the name brands you can start to rattle off, the Saddlebacks and
Joel Osteen's church.
Yeah, Osteen's, probably up there too.
And what's the guy's name? There's oh gosh, what's the guy? But anyhow, so his emphasis is filming church services is a big church thing. Now, why does he say that, I wonder?
Well, I think he's probably primarily concerned, and he mentions that in some of the articles, or in the article, he's concerned about quality. And he's basically setting up the premise that you need $10,000 to $20,000 worth of equipment. You can spend easily $100,000, which is true, that you can spend that amount. But we think you can effectively stream and do a really good job and create a great presentation on your, for the community for much less than that.
So his thinking is, okay, so unless you're a big church, you're just not going to be able to. All right. So let's first of all talk about where he gets his numbers and stuff. And he doesn't really tell us, I don't think, where he gets his numbers as far as cost, does he? I don't remember seeing that in the article.
No, he just kind of mentioned the ballpark levels.
Yeah. And there is, like you just mentioned, you could spend, it's like anything. You could spend $100,000 if you wanted to. Okay. But first of all, I think that even if you're a smaller church, under 200 people, even under 100 people, you should consider streaming, but not because, well, let's talk about why you should consider streaming.
Right.
Not just because of the price. So why should you consider doing your services live and having archives?
So I think the primary driver is it provides an avenue for people to check out your church. And I was telling you that I ran into actually a pastor coming to my home church that was a friend of a friend, and he definitely has a church of 75 or less. It's a small church up in the Northwest. And he mentioned to me that, they've got, things are really tight and the budget is really tough. He goes, but we're not going to cut our streaming. And I said, well, why is that? And he goes, well, it brings people into the church. And so it's one of their most effective avenues for people to discover, try out the church before showing up in person.
So if you're a small church and you want to grow, and most churches I know want to grow, most want to grow. There's lots of churches that act like they don't want to grow because they do all sorts of crazy things. And I'm not just talking about crazy things from my perspective, but just they don't do things with quality, I guess is what I'm getting at. But if you really want to reach people and grow, to me, that would be one idea, is streaming your services and having those services available, because it creates windows, so to speak, into your church.
Right. He had a really effective story as well, but when I talked to him most recently, he basically just said it's ROI. He said, I'm able to bring people into the church and they eventually become part of the church and they begin to tithe. And so the amount of money that he was spending on for streaming was coming back into the ministry from just a purely financial standpoint, one aspect, and the other is, he's reaching people, which is the mission of the church.
Right. So I would say that if you're a small church, that might even be a better reason to consider streaming if you want to grow. I mean, in other words, maybe if you're already a large church, maybe streaming, you don't necessarily have to stream to grow because you've got so many people out there that are inviting their friends, and maybe you've done things. But if you're smaller, maybe you do want to consider streaming video because that will help you. But Steve, it's going to cost $10,000 to $20,000.
Yes.
How are you going to afford that?
No, we don't agree with that completely. We do have churches that their quality levels vary, and you can see some differences. But there's some churches that are operating on very small budgets and have a great looking product and put a great face forward for the community without spending a lot of money.
All right, so let's get down to brass tacks here. All right, so what is? By the way, I'm looking for our deal on resources here that you put on our website, and I can't find it. What it takes to stream. Is it on here?
It's on the FAQ page.
Oh, okay. Maybe we ought to change it.
We added it to the
All right, so oh, that's right. You told me that. So let's talk about what is it actually going to cost to start streaming. So let's talk a little bit about that, because we're telling you that it's not going to cost you $10,000.
Where I personally got involved with this, our church, small church, meeting in a high school, didn't have our own facility, and we actually started recording the services using actually a camera, just a home camcorder. And we'd set it up on a tripod in the back and start recording the services, and then we would post them online afterwards. This was back in the day with Google Video. Google had unlimited videos. So we'd post our videos before they acquired YouTube. That was a borrowed camera from one of the members. We weren't streaming live, and primarily because we didn't have an internet connection where we were. We're meeting in the school,
right,
and had no internet. But so there was basically no cost when we got involved, and it was, it wasn't something that would rival, NBC or a level of quality there. But it was a way for people to experience the church, and it wasn't bad. It was just a single vantage point. And as we moved into our own facility, we got the internet connection. We actually started streaming with actually that same camera, and just added the internet, connection to the piece.
All right, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So you can start really small.
Okay, but doesn't it look crappy?
No, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, there's like as I mentioned, it's not gonna rival the network broadcast, and it's not gonna rival where actually my church is today with adding actually primarily just some software, some video switcher software that really improve the look and feel of everything.
Well, let's talk about how you can actually get more bang for your buck. So you've got this used camcorder, you've stuck it on a tripod, and I mean, there's ways you can improve the look. So one of those ways would be where you put the camera.
Right. And one of the things that you're constrained with a not a great camera is the better the lighting and the closer you get to your subject, then the better the picture is going to be.
Okay, so two things that we ought to consider here. So when we're telling people you can do streaming video for under $10,000, you can grab somebody's camcorder, put it on a tripod, don't have it too far away from your subject, and also make sure your lighting is good.
Right.
So those are two very doable things,
right.
usually. I mean, unless you're in a space where you can't manipulate your lighting, if you're in a rented space maybe or something. But even that you can do some things with. I can remember years ago, we were meeting in a movie theater, and we actually brought in those big shop lights that had a big they were like on a tripod stand, and you could put them up, and you could literally turn these lights on. And so even though we couldn't mess with the lighting in the movie theater, which wasn't really bad lighting, we were able to add to the lighting by bringing in a couple, I don't know what you call them. I call them shop lights. In fact, you and I were using, I think one I had when I used to work on my Jeep. We brought one in when you and I used to do some streaming video at coffee shops.
Right.
And it made a big improvement.
It made a big difference. You can really, turning that light on, the quality of the image goes way up, even with an inexpensive camera.
Okay, so let's get the calculator out so far. So all right, so you got somebody's camcorder that, let's say you just decided you wanted to go out and buy one. So let's say you spent what, $500 on a camcorder?
Right. I mean, you could do that. I mean, I was mentioning to you earlier, we're streaming a friend's wedding, and he's went out and bought actually a brand new camera. It's I think $350 for a Canon.
Okay.
What's it called? Xvidea, which is decent quality. I mean, it's not going to rival a $2,000 camera, but if the lighting's good,
right,
and this is going to be actually an outdoor wedding, so
sure.
It would be tough to tell the difference.
All right, so you get a camcorder, and then let's say you really want to work on your lighting. So let's say you get a couple shop lights. I don't know, what are those? $50 maybe?
Yeah.
Those
you may wanna...
are they halogen? I don't know what they are, but they're pretty hot. They get really hot. I mean, am I right on that? $50, $60?
Yeah, you may want to, if you're going to be seeing these lights, you may want to do something with that. I don't know if you want to, take your shop lights and just stick them in the front of the service without, putting something around them to make it look a little nicer. But
so you got some lighting there. You got a tripod, which is $25 or whatever for a tripod for one camera. So you got so there you can make, and I'm sure somebody listening to this right now is saying, well, come on, guys.
I spent $100,000. What are you talking about?
Well, and you certainly can spend more money, but I'm getting, one of the things I recommend people is try it for a while and see how things go. So you can borrow something and set up a couple things and see what it looks like, and you can always make some adjustments. So then you got to get an internet connection to stream. Mm-hmm. So now that could get a little expensive, because if you're in a church situation, and we would recommend using cable. I mean, you've got DSL, and that's okay, but I've had better success with a cable connection on the internet. Back then it used to be Jones. Now what is it? Comcast. There's Cox cable. Now that can get a little expensive. That can be about $100 a month for a business.
Or even I think it may be even more than that for a business connection. But if you're operating in a church, you're gonna have
you'll use it for other sources.
Yes.
Besides that,
so you're gonna have internet connection.
All right. So you've got it. So the calculator's running here. So you've got, what do you got? $700-800 now, tied into everything, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you've got to. So your camera has to plug in to some kind of an adapter before it goes into your computer.
Right.
And we didn't count the computer here, but if you've got a laptop, you could do it. We don't recommend streaming with a laptop, but if you've got a laptop, you could use a laptop to stream with. But you could, if you had a desktop model, we'd encourage you to use that instead. And we'll get into that in a moment. So you've got to have usually some kind of an adapter for your camera to plug into before it goes into your computer.
Right. So there's a gamut of options for the adapter. There's some, I don't know if you call them, they're cheapo
VHS. There's a USB. Are you talking about the USB
the USB-based ones, which are typically problematic.
Right.
The Dazzles and what's the other?
Gigaware, I think, is another one. Radio Shack.
For around $50.
But there's other ones, and they're VHS. They call them VHS to digital converters.
They're primarily sold to people that want to hook a VCR up to convert their video to their computer. So we actually don't recommend those, but we do recommend there's a Grass Valley product that is $180. It's going to get you a higher quality, more reliable,
be more
setup.
Stable. It's a Grass Valley ADVC 55.
Yes.
And so your camera's got to have composite coming out or S-video coming out. In other words, it's got to have to be analog. And then it goes into this little box called the Grass Valley ADVC 55. And then out of that it goes out the other end, FireWire.
Right.
And so you'll have to have a FireWire port.
Right, either on your laptop or desktop device.
And if you don't have one on your desktop, you can always just get a FireWire card.
Right.
For about $25.
Yeah, $25, $35 just run up to Best Buy and you'll be set.
So if you go with the Grass Valley ADVC 55 FireWire converter, that's about $180.
Right.
Is what they usually cost. You can get them for $160, $170, $180. Amazon, you could find one on Amazon. There is something, BP Photo or something's got them.
Right.
I don't know, but they're out there everywhere.
Yeah, we recently purchased one from Amazon. We actually bought I guess it was a used or a refurbished, so it was a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. So all right, so again, you're still under $1,000. We're not counting the computer though. So, if you've got a computer, you're good to go. So, I mean, do you have to have a high-powered computer to make this work?
No. As long as you're not trying to do too much on the computer, you're going to be fine with a 2 to 3-year-old computer.
Okay.
So it doesn't require any super high-powered machine to encode.
Okay. Just something that's what I call a healthy computer, something that's not bogged down with viruses or all those kind of things. All right, so but you still need to have some kind of what's called a live encoder that takes that signal and basically makes it work, sends it up through the computer, through the internet up to our servers. So you've got to have some kind of a live encoder.
Yes. So
what's your options
there? We need a camera, an adapter, a computer, and then on the computer we need the encoder. So the first option would be to use the Adobe Flash Media Live Encoder.
Okay.
Which is a free download from Adobe.
Okay.
And one of the constraints with that is it's only going to take one input, and it will struggle with an HD input.
So high definition streaming is probably not the direction you want to go if you're going to use a Flash Media Live encoder.
Right, and if you're going with this route. Now there's much nicer, a little more expensive encoders that you can purchase that are going to get you into the realm where you can have multiple cameras and some other things going on. But just as an entry level position, the Flash Media Live encoder, it's free. It works really well. The streaming technology that is primarily used was developed by Adobe. So this encoder is an Adobe product, and so they get along really well.
So you've got the Flash Media Live encoder. So again, that's free, so that's not going to cost you anything. So the price really comes down to then next would be using a company or streaming somehow using some kind of a vehicle, a company, YouTube, Google, Hangouts, a company like we have, streamingchurch.tv. And for instance, if you wanted to stream even YouTube, you can stream now live with YouTube. I think you're limited on some things with YouTube. If I haven't really done my research with that, but you can do live streaming with YouTube, but there is some limitations, I believe. And I'm not sure, you may have some pop-up ads, maybe. I can't remember that.
Yeah.
There's other companies too that you can do live streaming with, but they will give you pop-up ads.
Right.
But you can do that for free.
Or during their show ads.
And we're actually, should we let people know we're in the process of developing something that we might be able to give them a better price down the road a ways with our company.
Yeah, there's they're actually working with someone else that would set up a pre-roll commercial that would
and then that would be
60 seconds, and that would be
it would be church friendly, user friendly. So that's down the road always. We'll tell you about that as that develops. So now with our company, it costs money. I mean, it's $99 a month,
right?
Plus bandwidth,
right?
So if you were to go with us, you're looking at $99 a month, and then how does the bandwidth work? Because people always go, well, okay, so I'm paying $99 a month, but I'm also going to have to pay extra for bandwidth.
So the way our model works is we basically set it up so that you only pay for what you use. So you pay per gigabyte, and that's always really confusing to people. And we use a rule of thumb that will help you convert gigabytes to viewer hours. Now there's lots of variables here because how much bandwidth you use will depend primarily on the number of people that view your service and how long they view your service. That's the biggest variable in the equation. But also how you set your encoder up will also affect how much bandwidth you use. If you encode at a really high bit rate or a high resolution, you're going to incur more bandwidth. So the rule of thumb for us is it equates to viewer hours. So we just do pennies per viewer hour. So it's between 16 and 20 cents per viewer hour.
So if somebody were to watch a service for 1 hour, generally speaking, if they encode it the way we recommend, maybe 20 cents in bandwidth.
20 cents. Probably on the higher end.
20 cents roughly or so. So 20 cents for one person. So if you had 10 people watching, it's going to cost $2 in bandwidth. If you had 100 people, which is a pretty good number to have if you're a smaller church, that's pretty large, and we're talking maybe $20.
Right.
But if those people, and they don't necessarily, they may watch for 20 minutes or watch for a half hour, but they're not going to be billed. You're not billing the church for 2 hours worth if they're only on there for an hour.
Right. It's just a function, and that's one of the things that as people get involved with this, it's a little bit like when people first got their website up. They thought, I've got a website now, I'm going to get hundreds and thousands of hits. And I'm streaming now, I'm going to get 10,000 people that are going to find me and drop in on my service. It's not that way.
It doesn't happen. I'm sorry to disappoint you out there if you're one of the people thinking that.
Yes,
it's not going to happen.
If I stream my stuff on my services on the web, then I'm going to have people from you will get people from all over the world that will find you, but it will not be tens of thousands of people. And it's typically going to be a reflection of the size of your church and kind of your footprint in the world on how many people find the service and attend the service.
Unless you're TD Jakes or whatever, you're probably not going to get 10,000 people watching you.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. So, but if Pastor Jakes is interested in using our company, I'm sure we could work out something with him. So, so really, and let's just be practical here. The church you're with and the church I used to be with, there's 350, 400 people attend the actual location on the weekend, roughly.
On a weekend, yeah.
And how many people are watching a live service on Sunday morning?
So over the weekend, we have 3 services, so they add those numbers up. It's a little over 100, I believe. So it has peaked around 200 at times, but it's I think it's between 100 and right around 150 or so.
That people actually watch the live service?
The live service is going to be less than that because that's going to include both the on-demand as well as the live.
But the thing about
probably I'm just running some numbers around 90 or so.
And you've been doing it for how many years? Over 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Because when I came back here from Kansas, we just started. That was almost 6 years ago. So let me just, I'm saying this, we're about out of time here, but I want to try to people get a context when it comes to numbers here. So, and your church has done a really good job of getting the word out there. That's one of the things I need to emphasize is that you can build your audience, and we've talked about this, and we'll talk about it probably in a podcast in the future. There's a way you can use social media, you can use your website, you can use your newsletter, you can use your bulletin to build your audience. And your church has done a great job at that for years. So the fact that you may have 100 people watching a live service, and your church is only 350 people that show up, that's a high percent. That's really unusual, but it's attributed to the work that the people have done there to get the word out.
Right. And
most churches aren't going to get that high of a number.
Right. A key part of that is how you stream live too. So at our church, they really make the live audience a part of the service. And so that communicates not only to the live audience, but it communicates to the people there that, oh, we're streaming live, and they get reinforced throughout the message that, oh, we're streaming live. And so they go home and say, hey, Joe, we found this new cool church, and hey, they stream live. You can go check them out this weekend.
Yeah, it's very, very interactive. So, all right, so we got a couple minutes left here, and that's about it. So, price-wise, to do all this, I mean, you could actually start streaming for probably under $1,000.
Yeah, you can get going for under $1,000. So
under $1,000.
Yeah,
and even cheaper if you really wanted to.
And create a something you'd be proud of. So, I mean, it may not be what you'll be 4 years down the road, or if your church is much bigger. We do have, we've got churches of all budgets that are doing this, and we do have had some churches that have spent six-figure on audio, video, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and they're using it for other purposes too. It's not just streaming.
Right.
They've upgraded their systems for other reasons. But and you could even do other things. You could upgrade and still, you could probably upgrade for under $3,000 or $4,000 and still get a pretty nice setup with a couple cameras.
Yeah.
Those kind of. We actually have some stuff we recommend.
Yeah, you're really gonna. I mean, the biggest jumps I think is getting an encoder that will do lower thirds will really kind of up your game and create a more professional image, and then adding cameras.
Yeah, Wirecast is what we recommend for that. So we're about out of time here, but I think probably the biggest obstacle, in my opinion, for small churches in streaming isn't necessarily money. In my opinion, it's just manpower. It's just volunteer help. So if you want to stream and you're a small church, you can do it for probably under $1,000. But you probably need to recruit a couple people that are committed to doing it so that they can run the camera and they can kind of keep an eye on the computer and keep an eye on things. And to me, that's a bigger obstacle, believe it or not, than just the money. And really, even that's not a big obstacle if you present it right and you really get people passionate about it. You could grab 2 or 3 people and have them commit to helping out.
Right.
But that's what I have found is it's not so much the money. We think it's the money a lot of times, but it's not. It's just we got to get people committed to being involved in doing it. It's like any other ministry. Right. So we just shot our poor guy. We just shot his theory out of the water.
They said you can't stream for less than $10,000 to $20,000.
You can do that. You certainly can, and you can make it look good. All right. So Steve, we're about out of time here. If you got questions about this, folks, or anything else, support at streamingchurch.tv. Obviously, we do streaming video, we do mobile apps, we do websites, and we do other things too. So if we can help you in any way, our main goal for doing this podcast and even everything we do is to help churches. I mean, we're really, we have a heart for churches, and we want to, help you any way we can. And we've got lots of connections out there too. So it's not just a technical thing. There's some other things we can help you with as far as consulting and those kind of things.
Absolutely.
So if you need some help, you have questions, support at streamingchurch.tv. Well, I'm Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
Folks, you have yourself a great day. Thanks for listening to Church Solutions Podcast, and we will catch you next time. Have yourself a great day.